Buy Black Podcast, Episode 5. Brandon Campbell shares inspiration and advice about his journey from journalist to producer to event planner and entrepreneur. Welcome to Buy Black, the only podcast dedicated to helping you find, connect with, and support Black-owned businesses. We're on a mission to bring consumers and business owners together to ignite the global Black economy. I'm your host, Gerald Jones, and if you're a Black business owner or a socially conscious consumer, you've joined the right community. Ready? Let's get to work. Hey guys, thank you for joining me on episode 5 of Buy Black Podcast. Today is a really special episode for me. I'm actually going to be interviewing a friend of mine that I grew up with in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so this is the first time that I'm getting to use this platform to help promote somebody who's in my circle of folks that I grew up with, that I went to school with. And it really hits one of those points that I love about ownership of a platform, is that you get to choose who you're going to put on blast. You get to choose what people you're going to be able to promote. That is the power of ownership. And so I was able to reach out to my guest today, Brandon Campbell. He is from Little Rock, Arkansas. We graduated from the same high school, from Little Rock Central High. He is the founder and president of Little Rock Fashion Week. So Brandon's had an amazing career so far. He's gone on a journey from Little Rock to college in Iowa, going on to work in New York and LA and Connecticut, producing content for over a dozen major organizations, from Fox News and Nickelodeon to E! Entertainment and the WWE. Now, after his stint with the WWE, he actually moved back home. He founded Little Rock Fashion Week, and since founding this event in 2009, Brandon has expanded it to Baton Rouge, and this year he's also actually going to expand it to Plano, Texas. So later on in the show, Brandon is going to get to contact information about this show that's coming up in Plano, but I'm going to go ahead and start off and give you that information up front. So the show in Plano, Texas is going to be at the end of October. I believe it's October 23rd to the 29th. But there's a model call going on September 24th, 2017 in Plano, Texas. If you are in the Plano area or know somebody in the Plano area and they want to get into modeling, this model call is for them. So if you go to the website, www.planofashionweek.com, you will find the information right there on the front page about this model call, the location, the date and time, all the way down to what the models should be wearing and what accessories they shouldn't have. Again, Brandon gets to that later on in the show, but I wanted you to get that information up front. That's again, www.planofashionweek.com. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get into the show. We're going to jump in with me asking Brandon a little bit about his backstory, and I'm just going to let him take it from there. You guys are going to enjoy this episode. He drops nothing but gold the whole time through. So let's get to it. Tell me about that backstory. How do you go from, growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas to traveling the world and then coming back and creating a fashion week back in our hometown in Little Rock?
Well, I mean, for me, the backstory, graduated from Little Rock Central High School, graduated from there. Then I went to the University of Iowa, where I majored in journalism and mass communication, and I got my minor in international studies, as well as a certification in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship and journalism, a lot of those things, I kind of discovered what I wanted to do a long time ago. Journalism pretty much just came about for me, and just wanted to be a writer when, I was a big sports fanatic, and being a sports fanatic, I was always into it, especially, Michael Jordan and basketball, and especially football. And so I remember at 14, I told myself that, hey, if I'm not going to be playing it, I want to be at least talking about it. And then fast forward a year later, it was a book that I read in my honors we were reading in my honors English class, and I really wasn't a big reader growing up for many reasons. But we read a book called The Friends by Rosa Guy. We read a book, and the book, even though the setting was in Harlem, New York, it really resonated with me, and it brought about a certain type of emotion where when we finished reading it, I mean, it really was like the first book that ever really caught my attention and really held it. And so after that, I said, I want to tell stories. I want to share stories, and I can merge the two with journalism and mass communication and writing to tell stories. And so going to school at the University of Iowa, I felt like it was going to be the perfect place for me to kind of be what I wanted to be, basically by being a fish out of water from Little Rock, and then going to Iowa is going to be completely different for me. And so now I can kind of go there and reinvent myself and be a different Brandon, I guess, of whatever the brand was of me when I was in high school or so forth, junior high. So, but anyway, went to University of Iowa. And one thing I always will just say to anybody is just to do. When I got to Iowa, I just got busy. I saw it was a Big Ten university, 30,000 people, and they had the resources. And that was something that growing up in Little Rock, I didn't have. We didn't have the resources to do stuff. And so I always had entrepreneur spirit to want to do something when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, but I just didn't know how, or I didn't know where do I go to get it. I mean, I talk about, man, when I was in junior high, man, I had a little singing group, and I was the manager of the singing group. You try to call around, trying to book gigs, man, for us. And I'm talking about, I used to call out of state, try to get some little, back then, try to get a calling card, or you try to see if something, because you have cell phones, really.
Yeah, no, I remember them calling cards, man.
He is like, how do I call Babyface? How do I try to get these tapes to him?
Oh man, you was going big time.
I was trying, man. I was a dreamer even back then, man. But I really believed in us and everything like that. And so, but anyway, just fast forward, going back to college, man. Like I said, the entrepreneur spirit was always in me, but it was almost like dormant. So I always was like, let me keep that on the back burner while I gain skills and gain knowledge and network and know and learn about my craft as much as possible. So at Iowa, I got busy. I mean, I wanted to reinvent myself, like I said. So I got involved with the Black Journalist, not NABJ, National Black Association of Journalists. Got involved and became the president in my sophomore year. Was the president of that. Then I used that platform to create my own TV show on campus. I was producing, executive producing. I was writing scripts, booking the host, writing all the questions out, editing it, doing all those different things. And so from there, I started that. I was the editor of the Black newspaper that we had there. Then I ended up transitioning to the local student-run newspaper, the Daily Iowan. Did that for a semester while I was still doing all the other things on campus. Then, I'm talking about, man, and I got into my senior year. I kind of became a little star, man, at the University of Iowa. And so from there, I just kept building, kept trying to do things, try to create more avenues and opportunities for me and everybody else. Really, a lot of times to have fun and enjoy it. But I always loved doing live events. And so I would do like I did the back to school party. I did a talent show and all of that, man. And it all that eventually led up to me, at the same time I was doing all that. I was also a writer for the local newspaper there. There was a Gannett-owned newspaper, the Press Citizen. So okay. I'm doing all these things to staying busy. But anyway, it ended up leading me to New York City, where I got a really fascinating internship at Nickelodeon.
So hold on one sec.
New York City. Mm-hmm.
Hold on one sec before we keep going, because before we get too far into this, I wanted to jump back real quick.
Okay.
You mentioned this book, The Friends, and I just pulled up a summary of it. tell me a little bit, what was it about that book? Because I kind of see a little bit of the, I guess, the abstract on it here, but tell us a little bit, what was it about that book and that story that touched you and kind of led you down this path?
Interesting. Good question. What it was about that story was that it was two Black females, of course. They were female, but they were in New York City. They both were so different, but they were so much alike. Where the one character, the main character, her family was, I believe they were from Haiti, and they ended up moving to New York City. And so they kind of had this whole, like, this kind of elitism, kind of like, hey, we're all that. We have this, we have money, we have a lot of positive things going on with our lives. And then so Edith Jackson came along, who at the time they saw her as a ragamuffin. You know, that's what they called a ragamuffin. So one who came from the other side of the tracks, who was poor, and she had a lot of different things that was going on with her life that was very tragic. But at the same time, they both were Black, but they came from different backgrounds, but they had a lot of those similarities, and I could relate to both of them. From me being, you know, like the Edith Jackson character who came from the other side of the tracks, and people would judge and to criticize and things like that because she didn't have what everybody else had. But at the end of the day, tragedy and their families and what they love most brought them together as friends. When really people didn't think that, you know, that she wouldn't be hanging out with her or her family wouldn't accept her. But the main character, her mother, it was Phyllis. Yeah, I think it was in that Phyllis, Felicia. I can't remember the character's name for some reason. But the main character, her mom had breast cancer, and they were hiding it. And she didn't know. But it ended up, you know, not to tell the whole story, but it was a tragedy. Both of them had different type of tragedies that brought them together. And I think that for me, I never had a story that, even though I didn't have anybody that, you know, had breast cancer or anything like that, but it taught me a lot about just opening up my horizon to people and being open and not being judgmental, because everybody has a story. And so it was very fascinating because it made me want to know more about people, and get to learn their stories, and tell those stories.
That's what I can see. Okay, so I'm making that connection now, because that's what it seems like your whole life has been about, is helping other people tell their stories, that's a really cool connection. Okay. All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take you backwards, but I hadn't ever read that book, and so I was like, well, what is this? I looked it up, and the abstract, it looks really interesting. And I think I can kind of see that same thing, what you're talking about. I may want to read this book now, because it was the same thing. We both grew up in Little Rock, you know, both graduated from Central. And I had that same thing. I grew up, before I got to Central was the first time I was in a public school ever. I went to Christ the King before that. I went to, you know, the cathedral school or whatever. And I was surrounded by these affluent, you know, white children who I did not fit in with. And then, you know, Little Rock being Little Rock, I go to church with the family, and I was surrounded by all the Black kids who I didn't go to school with, and who I didn't talk like and act like, and I didn't fit in with. And it was two completely different sets of people with completely different views on the world. But, you know, being a kid, it was still the same situation. You're either ostracized in this group or you're ostracized in that group, because you don't fit in with either one of them. So it's kind of the same thing. And you kind of learn, it's like, it's not about race. It's not about this, that, or the other. It's just human nature. If you fit in with the group, then you fit in. If you don't fit in with the group, then it's hard for you to get in. But everybody's got a story. Like you said, it's just, you know, be open to figure out, why is this person the way that they are? You know, make those connections. That's really interesting, man.
And that's how Central was, when you think about it. I mean, Central was, you know, it was Black people, but everybody came from, it was like a melting pot. Everybody came from somewhere, everywhere. And and so it was kind of like, it was a coming of age type of story. The book was, where it kind of relates. I mean, when I think about Central, it kind of relates to that in a sense, where everybody's trying to find themselves, and that everybody, like you said, can be ostracized or feel different than. And I think that that's what the main character kind of felt like, because at the end of the day, hey, she's Black, but she's Caribbean, and then she lives in New York, and she doesn't know her place. She doesn't know where she fits in at. On one end, she feels like she's better than, but then on the other hand, she feels like she's less than, amongst other people. She feels like she's less than. So I kind of felt like that growing up. I always felt different. I always felt like I didn't really fit in with any group. So whether I was a football player or, athlete, I never really saw myself as just an athlete. Even though I was a Black person who came from this side of the train track, I always felt like I was a fish out of water while I was, on the wrong side of the train track, so to speak. And so I always felt like I was like a Black man, or young black man who was just in the middle. You couldn't put me in any box, because I am who I am. Mm-hmm. And so, and sometimes with that comes those challenges of people accepting you, because they can't really put you in the box. You're not this kind of Black person, hey, but you're not this type of Black person. So it's no extreme.
Right. Yep. I can't stereotype you. You confuse me. You get those looks like that little rock eyebrow. Like, wait, how you? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what to do with you.
Where's your accent? Yeah. How come you don't do this? How come you don't do that? Or, so yeah.
Very cool, man. So then, so we hit Iowa, and you basically, for 4 years, you just gradually took that campus by storm. Let me ask you, how even in Iowa, how did you move into these different roles? Was it a matter of starting off with hustle, and then eventually people started pulling you in the places where they wanted you, or were you just hustling the whole time?
To be honest with you, man, I think that on one end, I kind of already once I got in there, I knew I was there to do business. I knew that when I was going to Iowa, I came with a mindset that I was not about to play. I'm not about to come here, 600-700 miles away from home, just to be back in Little Rock come the second semester of school and have to answer those questions. Where you at? Why are you back? What you do? No, I came with a mindset that I'm about to achieve. And it was the fear of not achieving that made me want things even more. And so I came in to attack. I'm talking about I studied and I worked like I never worked at Central. Because you get there, your kids and people on your floor, and it's a predominantly white school, with maybe 2%, 3% Blacks. And so you're meeting these people, which was great, but they come they're valedictorians and salutatorians, and they're talking about, I made a 29 on my ACT, and I was the number 1 or top 10 graduate, and I'm like, that wasn't me. I didn't make a 27, but let me show you something, though. Let me show you something, because I'm going to show you how, even though I'm from Little Rock, but I'm about to prove something to myself and prove something to you. Mm-hmm. So once I got in there, I was attacking. I'm talking about, literally, Joe, I don't think I've ever worked as hard school-wise than I ever did when I went to Iowa, because I was not about to fail. And so when I got there, I just attacked my books hard, stayed focused with that. And then my second semester started trying to lean toward, journalism, because that's when I started taking more journalism type of course, like introductory courses, and just meeting people. And so meeting people, especially as a Black person, kind of stood out anyway. Mm-hmm. But I try to make myself known to some faculty, and because I wanted to be a part of NABJ anyway. And so when I did that, I saw that as a platform. And once I got that platform under my belt, because what happened, the one person was named the president going into my sophomore year. But then she just kind of flaked. We got there to school the sophomore year, and she was nowhere to be found. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and become the president. I was the VP, so I got lifted up. to become the president. And then from there, that's when I just started to say, great, now I'm about to do all the things that I want to do. I want to start doing magazines. I want to start doing my own TV show. I just started just doing whatever I had something in my mind to do. I just did it. So like you said, so that's when the hustle came about. And then I tried to figure out how can I monetize things, because all the other stuff wasn't making me any money. So then that's when I kind of grew my own little personal brand. Because at the end of the day, I wanted to leave a legacy. When I leave, I want to leave the next group of students something. And so that's what I wanted to do. I want to leave a mark where people can aspire to. And so that's what it was, man. I'm talking about, man, I was just working. If I want to do something, I just did it. And then what happens, like you said, when you do that, now the president of the university starts taking notice. Now the dean of the school starts taking notice. Then, fortunately for me, then the publisher of the local newspaper takes notice, and they want me to come in and work 20 hours a week and make some money. I'm saying, okay. And I'm the only, not just black, but only student, period, in the entire University of Iowa who's working at that newspaper.
Wow.
a professional
incredible.
Newspaper writing. Yeah. As a features writer. And so, yeah.
That's awesome, man. So that I think that's the formula that I've seen so many successful entrepreneurs take is, you walk in with the mindset of I'm just going to hustle and build my brand and make my name. And, it doesn't happen overnight, but if you are consistent, if you put in that consistent work and put out consistent quality and don't worry about what obstacles are in front of you and just say, I'm just going to knock these over. Eventually people on the other side just start looking and saying, let me knock these down for you. Like, you coming over here anyway. Let me just get this stuff out of your way so you can make it over here and help me out. But it starts with you. It starts with you making those moves. So then getting back to where you were before, so you do all this incredible stuff at Iowa. You leave that legacy, and then you were saying that you got the opportunity to intern with Nickelodeon in New York. So let's pick up with that part of the story. How do you grow from that into your professional career?
Okay. Well, I ended up working at Nickelodeon. I was still in my junior year. And so like just kind of what you were talking about is that a lot of times you want something, but you don't know how you're going to get there. I wanted at the time, initially, I wanted to work in the music industry, but I didn't know how I was going to get to the music industry, to be honest with you. And so, but anyway, the opportunity came about, and I went to New York, and I ended up interviewing for internships. This is me in my junior year. And I ended up getting callbacks from like multiple different places. They just liked me so much. And so I chose Nickelodeon. And so, but like, here's the thing. I didn't know how I was going to stay in Nickelodeon, but I said, yes, I'll be there. I'm like, wait a minute, how am I going to stay in New York City to do this? Let me figure it out. So anyway, I ended up winning a scholarship from Sam Goody. If you remember Sam Goody, the store, the CEO, Sam Goody, is an Iowa alum. So he had an entertainment scholarship for people to do internships in the industry, so they can, live, which is, what is important. You need to live.
Wait, what? Wasn't Sam Goody? Weren't those like record stores?
Yeah, there were record stores. Yeah, remember the record store that used to be at the University Mall. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
and so anyway, at Nickelodeon, that's where once I got up in there, man, I was just like, I'm about to keep my head down, but I'm about to keep a smile on my face. I'm about to work hard. I'm about to be positive. And so I was there interning, man, and just started just really making names for myself, man. I would go around asking all the producers. I know I wanted to produce because I was a creative person. I wanted to produce. So I'm trying to get in good with all the producers, make a name for myself. Hey, do you need anything? Want me to go and grab? I was taking the initiative. That's how I was. And so I remember they let me go and they asked me, hey, you want to come in and sit in for a meeting? We're about to have a meeting on, it was like the Little Romeo show that they were just about to launch in that fall, Little Romeo and Master P and all them. And so I went into the meeting and they were trying to come up with some promos to promote and market. And so it was just, a room full of white people and one black producer who was a real big mentor of mine at the time, her and me. And so they were coming up with all these ideas that didn't make any sense to me. And so I raised my hand up, and they were like, "Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand up. What do you think?" And so I just started spitballing this idea of, how to connect. Because at the end of the day, he needs to be Romeo. You can't make Romeo into something else. His fan base sees him as Romeo. Lil Romeo. So you have to let him be Lil Romeo. And I came up with some different ideas. And then after the meeting, I was walking down the hall, and the senior producer stopped me in my tracks and said, "Hey, come and see me. Come here. I thought I did something wrong. I was like, oh, what did I do? Oh, boy.
Man. Yeah, I know. I've had that feeling before too. It's just like, oh man, this could go one way or the other.
Oh yeah. And so then he asked me if I can write some taglines for them to use for a Romeo show. And I saw it as a great opportunity, and that's what I did. I ended up writing taglines for the Romeo show. And it's like I became, honestly, I became that little star, of all the interns who were there. I mean, by the time it was over with, I had a decision to make, man. They were offering me a job to not go back to school and to stay there and just work for Nickelodeon. And so I had a decision to make, and I decided to go back to school because I had one more year left, and ended up going back, and I finished, which was actually the best decision I ever made. But eventually I ended up going back to New York City, and I was working for Fox News Channel, starting out. And I was writing and producing obituary packages for Fox News Channel, of all places. But it was a great experience, and it really isn't a big conservative place. When you go on the inside, it's just the product that they put out. Mm-hmm. But the people are liberal. There are different backgrounds and cultures and all of that. And you realize that when you work there, but you know what, too, what I liked about it? It had an entrepreneurial type of spirit about it. Because even though it was in this humongous Fox building, which is humongous in New York City, it was a certain type of spirit because the newsroom was small. I mean, literally, you grabbed a tape, and that tape that you grabbed from the library and you touched and you gave it to the producer, and they put it in, and it happened. So it's like, wow, it really was, everybody put something in on making things happen and making the news go. And so it was really interesting. But my passion was not news. It was, I wanted to work in entertainment, and I wanted to be in LA. Been wanting to be in LA since I was a 13-year-old kid, calling around trying to get my singing group to perform and try to see how can I get my tapes to LA so Michael Jackson can hear them and sign us to his MJ. I mean, I'm talking about, man, I thought I was gonna be on the MJJ music label with Brownstone and all those artists and all of them, man. Get to work with Teddy Riley, and oh yeah, I thought it, man.
You had dreams. That's good though, because mm-hmm. you took the steps to start making them manifest. So then, how did you do that? How did you transition from this New York into getting to your, I guess, how you got to where you are today? You took that route through the entertainment industry to get to event planning mm-hmm. and fashion. So yeah, take us through that. How did you make that evolution?
Okay. Well, the first thing is, it was, I got some really good advice. It was from Herb Spinell, who was at the time the CEO of Nickelodeon, all Nickelodeon networks. I had an informational meeting with him, and he told me this right here. He said, whatever you had and what you did in your college life, you have to make that your professional life. And I was like, huh. And so what he was meaning by that was going back to how I talked about what I did at Iowa and how I had that spirit. I was doing things and keeping busy, and I had that drive and things like that to be an entrepreneur, to make things happen, to excel and all that. I had to take all that energy, that same spirit, and bring that to when I got to LA. And that's what I did. So when I was in LA, I'm working same thing I talked about with Fox News Channel, same thing I talked about when I was at at the University of Iowa, and also at Nickelodeon. But the same type of spirit. So I got busy, man, just working, leaving my brand at different places. When I went to LA, man, I didn't even know anybody. I didn't have no place to stay. I stayed in a hostel for 2 weeks. I didn't know what a hostel was until an executive at Tribune Network told me what a hostel was in New York City. And so he told me that in New York City, he said, go stay in a hostel, man, because a hotel can be really expensive. And I didn't know what a hostel was. And so anyway, I went out there, stayed in the hostel in Hollywood Boulevard, which is kind of, kind of shady a little bit. But I was just driven to try to get what I'm trying to get. I had an interview, ended up getting an interview and got a couple of interviews actually. And I ended up getting an offer for the Style Network. And this is kind of going to bring everything together here. I got my first job in LA at the Style Network. I was a production assistant. And at the time, I mean, I wasn't into fashion really, to be honest with you, but I loved live events. And so that's when I learned about fashion, the designers, what the stars like the most, what they like to wear. And they helped gain me the knowledge of fashion, entertainment, and in the importance of fashion and how it influences the really pop culture. And so from there, I just worked my way on up. I ended up started working on all the live event shows, from the Grammys, the Oscars, Golden Globes, all those shows for E! Entertainment, where I worked my way on up and became a producer. We had a show called Style Invades New York Fashion Week, where I was working with Andre Leon Talley, Jay Manuel, all those heavy hitters in the industry. And so now I'm a producer, 25 years old, man, from a kid from Little Rock, Arkansas. That was my dream. That was my goal, to be a 25-year-old producer, and I achieved it. Took a minute, but I achieved it. And it was like, wow, a kid from Little Rock, and I'm a producer. I'm 25 years old. And so fast forward a little bit, it was like a couple years, like a year or so prior, I ended up working on the World Stunt Awards, and it was hosted by The Rock. And it was for Spike TV. And so I was like an assistant or what have you over the weekend and stuff like that. It was like a short little gig. But anyway, I made a good impression where I met the writers of the show. And so I always just stayed in contact with people. And when I had, I was looking for another job or what have you, I sent something in. I sent an email to my buddy there and said, hey, let me know if you need it, if you know of anybody who's hiring. And at the time, I didn't even know he was at WWE. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, yeah, I work for World Wrestling Entertainment. I didn't know. He was like, send me a resume. Do you mind if I send it over to HR? I said, sure, go ahead. He sent it over. They gave me a call. They threw my resume. It was a huge process. I mean, they liked me. They wanted me to work with them as a writer-producer for World Wrestling Entertainment. Same thing. And you'll notice about a trend with me. And the trend with me is that I'm usually always kind of like a fish out of water. I'm usually always like, it's an opportunity I might not know too much about, like Iowa. Didn't know too much about. I didn't even go on a campus visit until I went for my orientation. Wow. But I already said I was going to Iowa. I moved to New York without really visiting. I moved to LA, never been to LA. You know what I'm saying? So when opportunity came about to go to WWE, I mean, I wasn't interested. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch it. And so I had to write my own script and create my own character, to be, like a fictional character for WWE. And so the writers and producers and Vince and everybody had to get it and read it, and then they had to like it. And so I just submitted it. I said, I'm just going to send it in and see what happens, man. So I sent it in, and they gave me a call back a couple of weeks later, and it's like, man, we loved it. We want you to be a writer. You can come out here. We'll move you out here. This is how the schedule is going to be. 4 days out the week, you're going to be traveling. Then you'll come back home, on Thursday, and we'll do a meeting here in Stamford, Connecticut. And I said, hold on. I was like, wait a minute. It's going to be in Stamford, Connecticut? Yeah. You're going to have to move to, at the time I loved LA. And I'm like, man, how come I can't do this from here? But yeah. It was, and I never been to Connecticut, man. and so anyway, but we negotiated and everything, and they gave me an offer, and I worked for World Wrestling Entertainment for 2 years, closely with Vince and being on the private jet, hanging around with the boys, as we call them, and the girls, the divas. And while I was there, I was in charge of mainly like the divas and their storylines and everything. Mm-hmm. And so I was there working with them, and then I transitioned from there to digital media, because WWE was putting a lot more investment in their .com and digital media, because that's where it was headed anyway. This was like 2007, 2008 or what have you. And so anyway, and then during that time, I just really loved doing live events. I wasn't really into the whole wrestling thing, but I just loved doing live events. I loved the creation of it all and the build up. And while I was there, that's when the light bulb went off to do Little Rock Fashion Week and come bring Fashion Week to my hometown, because it was something that it's creating these opportunities and building resources and network throughout that whole time, from living from one place to the next and working at one company to the next, was all going to eventually lead up to me coming back home to Little Rock to start my own business anyway. Didn't really know exactly what that business was going to be first, but it was always in the back of my mind when I was a kid, and so forth. And so anyway, so I ended up having to leave Connecticut and pretty much be a fish out of water again, even in my hometown, and do Fashion Week, which honestly, even though I worked on the different projects for E! Entertainment, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I did research and things like that, but it felt so right. And I knew that it was going to be beneficial to so many people, and it was going to be a hit. And I believed in it because it came from out of nowhere. The idea, the inspired thought, I believe that came from my Heavenly Father above anyway. And so if he gives you something, he didn't give it to you to fail. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things I said, oh, wow, I have to do this now. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to have to do it. And so really just hit the ground running, man. I had to move back here. I moved back here and to Little Rock. It was April 2000. It was April. Yeah, I think it was April, late April 2009. And I already had the company incorporated and everything. Got it filed with the state and had to get my website up. I learned so much. I built my own little website, man. I'm working with vendors. I'm signing with the Chamber of Commerce to try to create a network or a base. Man, ended up having the first Fashion Week that August. I was going to have it in July. We cut the ribbon in May of 2009. I hired my staff in late June. Had the first model call July the 11th, and had the show August. I had the shows like August 13th through the 15th. Wow. And I didn't get any money from anyone. It was all my money that I saved up. I worked hard from my savings from working in all these shows, and saving my little income tax money and all of that as well too. And I invested in me, because one thing I learned, even when I was going back to being the head of the National Association of Black Journalists, University of Iowa chapter, and my other projects in college, was that I always could believe in me. I can always count on me. When people drop the ball, or when people say they're going to show up and they don't show up, or, for many reasons, going back when I was 13 and when I had the little singing group, when I was ready to practice and there's always someone who don't want to do it, or, can't show up on time, or miss a rehearsal, or miss a gig, I was always there. So I could always count on me. So if no one else is going to bet on me, I'm going to bet on me. So I'm going to put tens of thousands of dollars in this project because I believe it's going to be great. And that's what I did.
Yeah. So before you go on, there's this recurring theme that I have heard you mention, and I just wanted to pull it out. Mm-hmm. You were talking about and I've lost it now because it was so stinking important. That's what my brain does. Crap.
What was it regarding when LA, New York, I came up with the idea for Fashion Week?
It was about that, but it was more just about it tied into your hustle, but it was a very specific aspect of your hustle that I've been holding on to for about 3 minutes, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but now it's gone. It'll come back because you talk about it continuously through here, and so you're gonna bring it up again. So let's come back to your investments, your investment in yourself, and then going into the Little Rock Fashion Week. So first thing, actually, my first question on that is you did do that. You self-funded this very first project. How did that pay off? Because I've seen a lot of people who do a first live event where they don't actually get sponsors and they do it up front, that it ends up in the red. It doesn't end up really bad in the red, but monetarily it ends up in the red. But as a strategic success, it ends up being huge because it's a massive success socially, even though it may not have been a massive success financially. So if you don't mind, tell me about that. How did that entire first event turn out for you, and what doors did it open financially, as well as, as that first kickoff event?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, and it's the interesting part of my wife and I was just talking to her about this the other day. The thing is that like you were saying, is that a lot of times it's not a success from right in the beginning. And so for me, what ended up happening, I pretty much broke even. And so I broke even. I had to pay a lot of people. I think honestly I overpaid. I got killed in negotiations, just to be honest with you, because one thing, I just wanted to get it done, but then I wanted to make sure everybody else was happy. You deal with people who just trying to put their hands in your pocket, and they're just trying to take money from you. And not saying they're stealing, but everybody just was trying to get what they could get for themselves. And so for me, being the kind of person I was, especially back then, was the person who wants to be giving and do things for others. And just, I really felt like it was going to be something where, I was going to make a bunch of money and be able to take care of people and make sure people make money as well too. But I was so much about my reputation as well too, because I didn't want people to be like, I wanted to show people that I wasn't just coming down here to do this event and I'm going to leave. Right. Or I'm going to, come down here, promise all this stuff, and I'm not going to deliver. And so I really bit the bullet on that first year. And so my initial plans, when I did the math, just kind of like just being a positive thinker myself, I said, man, I'm going to make X, Y, thousands of dollars. Wow, this is going to be huge. I'm going to have so much money afterwards. And then so when it happens, and I didn't have so much money afterwards. Yeah. I was staying at home. My mom, when I first moved back down here, I was like, man, after the show, I'm going to go ahead and get me a little loft downtown Little Rock, and we have my offices out of that, and I'm going to be living it up. This is going to be just this one-time thing. It ended up turning into me staying with my mom for another year because I didn't have the money like that. And so it was a little disheartening how I felt at the time, but at the end of the day, here's the thing: I didn't have a plan B.
Okay, so that's one.
I came back here for this. I didn't come back for nothing. I love my family. I eventually found and met my wife during the time period, but I came on when I went to Iowa. I came on a mission. When I went to LA, I had a mission. When I went to WWE, I had a mission. Everything was a mission. So when I came here, it was a mission. So it wasn't about me coming here and failing and then picking up my little pieces, about a couple of thousands of dollars, and then go back to New York and do what? Because I was all in on what I was going to be doing. Yeah. And so I didn't even really fathom or think about what if it's not a huge success monetarily. I didn't think about that until really after the fact. But what happened, it just drove me for 2010 to make things even better, to make things even greater. And opportunities ended up coming to me to be like a stylist. I was a stylist, and for Savers Incorporated, those Saver thrift stores or what have you. I was a spokesperson, and they paid me to be a stylist for their big lunch in Little Rock and also in Rogers, Arkansas as well too. So they paid me to do all of that and produce and be a host and all of those things there. And it led, and that was like 2010. And then, when 2010 came, I said, this is going to be great. It's going to be big. It's going to be even better than last year, the previous year. And to me, it wasn't. it still wasn't. And that right there in itself, it hit me pretty hard because that was the year. I devoted everything. It wasn't like 2009 where I, moved to Arkansas in April, did the thing in May, got my people on board in June, had the show in August. No, I sat down, just like I talked about in college. I devoted everything. I think at the time, my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, got tired of me talking. I was obsessed about Fashion Week, about Little Rock Fashion. I was obsessed. That's all I did. And so I was like, I'm going to make up for it. In 2010, I had some, man, it was all, I guess we'll get into that, but it was some struggles. It was stuff going on in the community, just some naysayers and negativity. I had a bad write-up from a newspaper, man, and which was very disheartening because I thought what I was doing was all positive, and I thought Little Rock and Arkansas was going to be this big positive place. I just didn't think that it could be this harsh. I didn't think that. And so I set out to really prove them and prove myself wrong, but more so prove everybody wrong. And 2010 wasn't the big splash monetarily success that I wanted. Wasn't in the red or anything, but I still thought it should have done better and been better.
Yeah.
But I know why it didn't do as well to me. I know why it didn't, because I was trying to make it something that it wasn't to me on my heart. So I tried to make it a type of show where the models come down and it's this flashy thing and they come down the runway and they go back and try to make it kind of like this type of high fashion and make it what I thought that people wanted to see, because that's how all the other shows were done and all that, and from New York and all the other places as well. And I was pretty depressed. People don't know this, but I was. And the reason why is because I then tried to give people what they wanted, and they didn't receive it to me. They didn't receive it. They didn't buy the tickets. I had tickets for students. Like, you're a student, you can come on in and you get these $10 tickets. You see what I'm saying? And they didn't even buy it. It was just like, wow, I did everything I could to get everybody in there. And so from that point forward, I said, you know what? 2011 is my third year. Honestly speaking, I didn't even know I was going to do another year. After that, of Little Rock Fashion Week. And so I was like, I'm just going to do it my way.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it my way. Whatever my vision is, I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to be messing about what anybody else thinks. It's going to be about that same feeling that I got when the Lord blessed this on my heart to do Fashion Week. It's going to be about that. When I get that inspired thought and it hits my heart and it says, Brandon, this is how the show is going to look. That's what I do.
See,
so
I think
every year since then, in 2011, the third year was a smash. Nice. I'm talking about, man, it was a smash. We had expectations for I remember one show we had expectations for, it was like 300 people. Let's put some chairs out to 300 people or whatever. We had to end up putting out another 400 or 500 chairs.
Wow.
People came on that. We had that show on that. We had our Young and Fabulous show on that Friday, and it was just so many people. Then on Saturday, our finale show, even more people came. It was packed. I was like, wow, it was packed. And like all the work that was done leading up to it, and the blood, sweat, and tears, it just kind of all came about, and I broke through pretty much. And show people that I'm not going anywhere, because like you said, I know people, believe me, it was a lot of people after I did that Fashion Week in 2009 who then tried to do a fashion show. A lot of people tried to do it. Yeah.
It ain't that easy.
They only did it one time, and they realized that. You said what?
I said it ain't that easy. You look at somebody else do it and say, "Oh, I could do that." No.
Yeah.
This man's been doing stuff like this for years. He's still struggling to get it all together. It's gonna take him a while. It's like you're not just gonna walk in and be better than the master.
Man, and I'm talking about, man, I saw people try to do it. I'm like, they just don't know what they're getting into. And they try to do it, man, and then they don't get the financial boom that they thought they're going to get. Because it looks good. You go to the show, you see all these people, and you're like, wow. guys, you're counting heads like a lot of people do. They count, and counting heads and putting price tags on each head. You don't know why they're there. You don't know who they are. You don't know if they bought a ticket. You don't know. You see what I'm saying? And so you don't know what all went into getting this done. It's not as easy as, I'm going to get a venue, get some chairs, and tell everybody, hey, fashion show, come and get it. And pay $20, $30, $40, $50 to come and see it. You know, it's a lot of work that leads up to it. So yeah, but that 2011 was a breakthrough. Rewinding back a little bit, but 2010, because we were talking about opportunities that came about through the first initial Little Rock Fashion Week. In 2010, the next year, even though monetarily I don't think it was as huge a success I thought it should have been. And I'm a perfectionist, at least strive to be anyway. And so I'm never really satisfied that much anyway after each show. I'm always like, I could have did this, this right here. Trying to tweak stuff. But anyway, and I ended up getting an opportunity to start my own agency, Oneofakind Talent. After that, and in 2010, I started in 2010 after Fashion Week. I was encouraged by Dillard's, the corporation folk at Dillard's, to start the agency because I was discovering so much talent, and they wanted to work with them or have them in for go-sees and try to evaluate them because they have to go through an agent to book them. And so since I was the one who was discovering all these models, I'm talking about, man, we were getting like 400 plus 450 models coming in just to audition to be a part of Little Rock Fashion Week. I mean, and that was consistent.
That is an incredible opportunity that I bet you didn't even see that coming as part of this, did you?
You know what? I didn't, but eventually I've always wanted to eventually be an agent. I didn't tell you about this. I used to work when I was at the University of Iowa. They wanted me to play football as a walk-on, but I decided not to because I wanted to work in the offices. And so while I was there, I used to do a lot of scouting of Arkansas talent and other talent across the country. And so I was always in head coach Ferentz's office and saying, hey, have you seen this kid? And talking to the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, pitching guys. And they used to call me, they used to say, oh, the next Lee Steinberg, you know, or what have you. And Steinbrenner is one of them. But anyway, they was calling me like that was going to be an agent. That's what they always tell me. Oh man, you're going to be an agent. You're going to be an agent. You're going to be an agent. That's what they used to tell me. And so I didn't really believe it, but you know, I figured that I was going to eventually get into it anyway.
So when this opportunity came up, you start having all these models in front of you. You discover, and it's just like, well, I mean, here we are.
Yeah. I mean, but I wanted to make something small. And so I wanted to just sign just a few. And that's what I did. And like ever since then, I've always only had about 10 to 20 models on the roster that I can develop and be a part of their careers and build them and get them opportunities as well too. But at the same time, still give other models opportunities to work and be seen and be recognized. And just, especially at a time where, especially with African-American models, I mean, weren't getting those opportunities around here. I mean, from what it appeared to me. And so there were models who were really talented, but it was only certain models or people who had certain friends who got to be in the big time shows. And so Little Rock Fashion became a player. We became a player in all of that, where you're not going to overlook us. We're going to get the respect because of what we're bringing to the table and the talent that we have. And so it ended up leading to opportunities for me to be a producer for Arkansas Democrat Gazette, their bridal shows, their bridal fashion shows. I was the producer of that a few years, actually. And so I was able to bring in all my models from the people who did Little Rock Fashion Week. As an added bonus for being in Fashion Week, you can be in the bridal show that I'm producing. You know what I'm saying? So they got all those opportunities as well too. And so like a lot of that kind of just came about like where I ended up started to do more things for others.
See,
and
that
other corporations and organizations and things like that.
That right there, I think people completely undervalue when you talk about starting your own business, when you talk about owning your own business, you got to look at that as a platform. When you own the platform, you get to decide everything about how that platform is represented and used and who gets to be a part of it and who doesn't. You don't have to ask anybody else for permission. And so that tiny difference between working for somebody else or owning something yourself is huge when it comes to saying, I get to choose that people will not be excluded. And I don't have to ask anybody's permission for that. That is what we are missing more than anything else in the Black community is those platforms that we own that we get to say you will not exclude. And so that's a huge part of why I developed this show. You know, I don't work for anybody else when it comes to developing this show. This was an idea that came out of my head, and I said, just like you, it hit me in April talking to my friend Amber, and within 2 months it was, you know, phone calls and emails and interviews lined up. Hey, I'm going live July 5th. Like however close it gets to July 5th, and me saying I got to push it back. Nope, I'm going live July 5th. Whatever I got on that day, and just making it happen. And as the same as what you're talking about, as this thing grows, as it's consistent and gets bigger, and I'm able to connect with more people to put a voice out there into the world on this platform, I don't have to ask anybody about who's going to be on this show. I don't have to ask anybody about the content of what I'm going to talk about on the show because it's mine. And that ownership, man. I mean, people say power is a bad word, like that you don't want to talk about feeling power, but the power that you feel of being able to make a decision about promoting other people and giving them an opportunity and not having to ask somebody, hey, is it all right if I give this person an opportunity? And it is almost intoxicating, and not in a bad way, because it opens your mind up to what else can I do for people? How high does this ceiling go to what I can affect for the people around me? And you just start making moves. I love it. So I also remembered my point I was going to make earlier. I wrote it down this time. You have been talking over and over about being a fish out of water. And that really boils down to another one of those secrets of successful entrepreneurs that is kind of overlooked. And that is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you don't break out of your comfort zone, if you're not comfortable being in a situation where you're not surrounded by people who look like you or think like you or talk like you or believe like you, if you're not comfortable with walking in and saying, you know what, I have, you know, the basic skills to do this job, but I really don't know anything about all the rest of this stuff, but I'm going to go in here and master it. If you're not comfortable with being that person who says there's nothing in this world that I can't learn and do and master and soon be better than you, then you're not going to have massive success in life. You can be successful. You can absolutely, you know, be marginally successful and live a nice, comfortable life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's people who thrive in that mold. But if you see yourself as a person who is born and intended to do great things in life, you have to be comfortable being that fish out of water. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that has been a theme that I think is in your life that has continued to lead down this path toward more and more success.
Thank you. And that's exactly right. You know, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, you know, and a lot of times, like, that's what makes it exciting for me. That's what makes me, that's what drives me. You know, I mean, from, you know, doing Little Rock Fashion Week and, you know, like doing the agency, and I was like, I ain't know how I'm going to run an agency, if people are going to buy it, how I'm going to sign people, you know, and things like that. But it's not one of those things where, here's another key though, too. Even though you are comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're not comfortable with not knowing. And a lot of people, they just jump at stuff because they see the glitz and the glamour, and they say, oh yeah, this is gonna be great, it's gonna be fun, I'm gonna be living a life. So they just jump into it, and it's uncomfortable because they don't know anything. And so they realize, like, the first month or the week or whatever it is, oh, this ain't for me. Okay, let me just quit this right now. So, but because they see that it's uncomfortable and it's something that they don't know, but they just thought that the doors of the church was just going to be open, so to speak, and everything was going to fall in place without the work. And so, even though, you know, I didn't know a lot of these things, or didn't know the market sometimes, you know, it drove me to want to learn and gain as much as possible. So that whole spirit drove me. And so where Little Rock Fashion Week, and I, you know, that's finished up the 9th year, after the 5th year of Fashion Week, that's when I expanded into Baton Rouge, another area, you know, and it's something about starting something new that kind of floats my boat as well too, because I'm like, I'm about to go down there. I'm not from there. I have some experience there, but let me see if they're going to embrace this. And also let me see if I can do the same things I did here for people, and then I'm bringing opportunity to the folk in Baton Rouge and in all parts of Louisiana. Because I believe that at the end of the day, you know, success, opportunity, culture doesn't exist in the vacuum, and nor should it. And so that's what I love about when I go to Baton Rouge. When I started Baton Rouge, when I go there every year to do Fashion Week, we're going to the 5th year. And now, you know, we're talking about with Plano, this being the first one that I'm doing in Texas. And it's one of those things, it is a fish out of water type of thing for me, because Texas it's massive. It's a monster, you know, even though it's Plano, but it's the biggest city, population wise, than Little Rock or Baton Rouge. But then also it's a different demographic as well too. That Baton Rouge and Little Rock and Baton Rouge is a lot similar as far as demographic. Now culturally they may be different because it's Louisiana and it's Arkansas, but Plano is different. The demographic makeup, the socioeconomic, all that is different. And so that's a different challenge that I'm willing to take and see what happens and see if it'll be embraced. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback. I've been getting a lot of, you know, people who know me and know my Fashion Weeks in Baton Rouge and Little Rock. They believe in it. They believe, oh man, Plano's going to be great for you. It's going to be, wow, this is great. You're going to Plano, you know, that North Texas, North Dallas, North Texas area. It's going to be really good. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready for that challenge. I'm ready to be uncomfortable, but also make myself comfortable in that in a new setting, new environment, a new challenge. Gotta have a new challenge.
So where we are right now, then you are so Plano, which is your newest show. First time you're gonna be doing that one in Texas. That is October, right? That's your very next thing coming up.
Well, the very first thing is going to be, we have a model call. It's going to be on September 24th.
Okay. Where is that going to be at?
It's going to be in Plano. It's going to be in Plano at event 1013 in downtown Plano on September the 24th. It's going to be from 1 to 5 p.m. You want all models to come out, wear plain white T-shirts, jean pants, you know, no makeup or anything like that. Wear your hair straight or wear it natural. But just make sure your hair is out of your face. No jewelry, no nose rings and lip rings and all of that, and all those accessories. Come clean slate, and that's going to be on September the 24th. That's on a Sunday, and then whoever is selected from there is then going to be selected to model in our big night fashion show on October 29th, on that Sunday, October 29th. Doors going to be open at 7 o'clock. Show's going to start at 8 o'clock.
Okay. And just real quick, where online can folks find more information about this specifically? Is it just at littlerockfashionweek.com, or do you have a specific online location with more info about the Plano show?
Yeah, it's planofashionweek.com.
Okay, good to go. And then, so recapping that, your model call September 24th. The show is September or October 29th?
It's going to be October 29th.
October 29th. And then beginning of 2018 is your next show in Baton Rouge, which you've been doing that one for how many years now?
Well, Baton Rouge, that's going to be in February 2018. This is we're going to the 5th year. This will be the 5th year of Baton Rouge Fashion Week.
Okay, and have you?
And I love it.
Have you got any dates on the calls and things for that one laid out yet, or is that still going to be coming in the future?
Well, Baton Rouge Fashion Week is going to be February the 19th through 24th.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we'll announce the model call soon. Okay.
Awesome. So real quick, before we move into this next question I have for you, you just talked about how much you love the Baton Rouge show. So what's different? What's different between the show that you do in Little Rock and the show you're doing in Baton Rouge, and what's special about that show that you do down there?
Well, I mean, for me, I love it because I like to travel, and it kind of gives me another breath of fresh air. You know, it kind of helps me get out. Because, I mean, when I worked at WWE, man, I was traveling all around for 2 years and on planes and going all over the place. But I just really like that travel. I like the drives. I like going down to Louisiana, and I just really enjoy the energy. The people, the energy is just so great. And the energy is positive, you know. And I mean, and on the other side, it is good business. It's good business for me. It's good business for everybody who's involved. As well, our shows are sold out all the time. I mean, just like how receptive they were to Fashion Week coming there and me doing it from the jump has always been very positive. The shows are pretty similar as far as like the name. Like the thing is, we have names. Like I have names of the shows that I do in Little Rock, the same that I do in Baton Rouge, and the same I'm going to be doing in Plano. So it's like the shows are already kind of branded type of shows. So I bring those same brands to Baton Rouge, but it's different venues. It's so I can have, and it's like I do more smaller type settings in Baton Rouge. And I don't know, and then they just have a little bit, you know, it has that Louisiana, that Creole, that French type of culture, and the people, and it makes it interesting every year. It makes it interesting. And so, and it's kind of, and to think about it, it's like, you know, when you live in wherever you live and you're going to go to a place that every year you go, every time you go, it's probably going to be different. And, you know, I love that. As a person, I love it.
That's very cool. Very cool. So I just pulled up your website. So I already had Little Rock Fashion Week up. I pulled up Baton Rouge Fashion Week and Plano Fashion Week. And for those of y'all out in the audience, all three of those sites are up. They are all unique to each other, even though they kind of have similar themes. You can definitely see Brandon's branding on those. And just for clarification, if you go to Plano Fashion Week, every piece of information that Brandon just talked about that model call, what you should wear, types of things that you shouldn't have as far as accessories, that is all right there on the front of the website. Right in the center. So if there are any of you who are listening in Texas and would like to be a part of the show, have model friends who would like to try to get discovered and be a part of this show, it is planofashionweek.com, and you can find more information about that upcoming model call on September 24th. So back to you, Brandon. Sorry, I wanted to break in and just bring that plug in, but I want to transition because, you know, we have seen this evolution to where you are today and how you're expanding your business. So I wanted to kind of move into the other part of that conversation we'd had about your activism. How have you used this freedom that you've gained by creating your own businesses to make a difference in the community? What are some of those actions that you're taking in that role?
Oh yeah, well, I'm devoted to Little Rock School District and being a part of a solution, and a lot of times, just being the face of positivity. And so every year, me and I always bring a couple of models with me, and we go and we read to classes for the reading day. We go to these classes and we read to the students, read to the elementary school students. I just remember being a kid and being elementary, and I just remember really not having anybody to read to me, just based off of circumstance growing up. I just didn't. My mom worked late. You know, we would be with a babysitter who was usually an auntie who's young anyway. And when people would come and read to my class, which a lot of times was my kindergarten teacher's son, to read to our class, it just had a lasting impact on me. And so I used to then, even when I was in elementary, I would go back to my kindergarten class and read to them. So I always wanted to be that person that they identified, just like her son, who would come back and read. And I saw him as like a superhero to me. Like, wow, he's a big person, and he likes us, and he likes me. And at a time growing up, you know, I didn't believe that people liked me. Even as a little kid, I kind of had that kind of spirit on me, that people didn't like me. So he would come and he would play and mess around and joke, and he would read to us. And so now I've utilized this platform through Little Rock Fashion Week to go back, read annually or twice a year to a class. Also, I go to the Pinnacle Point Hospital and I share my story, more detailed part of my story as a youth growing up in Little Rock during those tumultuous times, as we all can remember, in the early and mid 90s.
Yeah, banging in Little Rock
today. Mm-hmm.
And it's coming all back around full circle right now too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And so those kids now, you know, when they're dealing with their things, to see somebody who dealt with far worse during that time and see that I'm here today and I'm doing the things I'm doing now, that's letting them know that this is just temporary. Their life right now is just temporary. It's going to get better, and it can get better. And so I do that. Go and I do cleanup days with the city, cleaning up parks. So we need somebody who can service. Here I come. Hey, it's off day or it's a slow day. Sign me up. I go down there and do it. And at the time, I have small kids, so they're like in daycare. So they're not in school. I don't have an affiliation with a lot of these schools. But if I can help and be a part and be a positive role model, and have that be my activism, as well as being, I'm already Black, so I can't be nothing but that. So by being Black and being who I am, that can be an inspiration for other Black people who are going to be able to identify with me. So I can't be a business owner without being a Black business owner. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, my business is my business, but it's still Black-owned business. And so that is what it is. But if I can succeed in my areas, I believe that it's going to motivate and inspire other people to want to succeed, either it be in my area or a sub area of my area or a completely different area. And so that's just a little bit of some things that I do in the community. I like to continue. That's my platform. That's what I'm passionate about.
I think that in and of itself is probably one of the most important things to be doing too. I remember growing up in Little Rock, and I tell people this all the time, because it was so true for me. I grew up, I had both my parents, my mom and dad. My dad passed 10 years ago, August 21st, actually, it's going to be. So wow, 5 days.
Sorry for your loss.
No, man. It's been 10 years. I look back at my dad and I'm even sitting here with a smile on my face now. Like it's one of those hurts that feels good, if that makes sense. But I had them both there. But when I was growing up, man, I can tell you I had no less than a dozen dads. Like you were talking about being a kid and having, this big guy come in and show up and play like a kid and show you that, what a role model looks like. I think it's black men like that who make some of the biggest differences in these young kids' lives. I know some of the biggest differences I felt growing up came from those type of men. Even I got an older cousin named Tyke who lives in LA, and every time he would come home to visit in Little Rock, I used to call him my toy, because I was a little kid and he was just a big old buff dude, and he would come and I would jump on him, I'd wrestle with him, I'd do this, that, and the other. I wouldn't see him but every 2-3 years, man, but it made such a huge difference in my life to just know that there was this, this man that I could look up to, that I could think about and say, man, this is an image of what I want to be. And then my dad's best friends and the 5 or 6 of them who are incredible in my life, and my uncles and the men at church and the coaches, and you can never have too many black male role models who are actively taking a role in just showing these young kids what it looks like, or what it should look like, and for them, what it could look like in the future. So, I mean, I don't think there's a better place that you could be in fulfilling that role. I think that's probably just part of that mission that God put on your heart to go back to Little Rock. Yeah, start Little Rock Fashion Week, but you're also coming back home and you're showing that there is so much more to learn out here in this world and to experience out here in this world. And you can bring it back to Little Rock, but you don't have to stay in Little Rock your whole life. Go find that information, then bring it back home and share it with the community.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's what it's about. I learned that, like I said, after probably, I want to say, it all kind of came into perspective. I want to say 2012, after I had my 4th Little Rock Fashion Week. And I look back and I thought about all the things I was doing, and with the business and all the opportunities that I was bringing about, not for me really, to be honest with you, but for everybody else. And so when I thought about it and I realized, and I kind of just really sunk into my purpose, like this is what my purpose is. And a lot of times, like I tell people, your purpose might not be your purpose. Your purpose is God's purpose, because your purpose might be, man, I want to do Fashion Week, and that's what I love to do, and I want to do events and this and this and that. It is going to make me rich, or what have you, right? It's going to make me rich. And God is like, hold on, wait a minute. Who said anything about being rich? I just told you to go down there, create this, because it's going to make others rich. It's going to make others rich in their spirit, in their souls. It ain't about money. Get your mind out for money. I know you wanted it. I know it's something that you always envisioned and dreamed of. But who's to say that this is what I was going to make you rich in? I never said that. And that's what he set me down at, and I understood that. That's why I never really got caught up in numbers anymore. Oh, how many people came? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care about that anymore. It's about when it's all over with, let me look and see how people's feelings are afterwards. Are they beelining it, hightailing it for the door, or are they still sticking around, smiling and running up to me, thanking me, and they're having a good time? They want to encore or something like that, because I know that energy is going to then go out into the world. It's going to get out of that room. It's going to get out of that venue space. And now you gave them something, not by myself, but collectively gave them a positivity that they didn't really expect to have. Now they're going to take that positivity and take that out into the world, take that energy. And that's really what we need, is to put as much positive energy into the world as possible. And so that's what it's about. And I realized that that's my purpose. And whether I get rich one day, so be it. And if I don't, so be it. Sometimes it's the youth basketball coach who does it. Sometimes it's the head of the boys club who does it. You see? So it's like you realize that it's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. And that's what it was. I was like, wow, this ain't about me. I know it's founded by Little Rock Fashion Week. It's founded and produced by Brandon D. Campbell. Yeah, that's why I never really gave myself the title as a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the president, but the city is the CEO. They tell me what they want and what they don't want. And when they don't want it no more, I don't give it to them no more. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, that's what I've learned. And it's amazing because you don't think about it like as an entrepreneur and you're self-driven and you want to make a lot of money and you want to live and be able to survive. You're going to make sure you're going to be able to survive, but I'm providing an opportunity for somebody else. And every day when I wake up, whether I'm sending an email, whether I'm producing plain old Fashion Week or Baton Rouge, whatever's going to happen, what's going to come of it is going to come of it. But a lot of other people gain a whole lot more from it than I do. And I had to come to grips with that what I created is for everybody else. It ain't for just me and my family. It's for everybody else. And sometimes that's how it is. It's almost like one of those things where, of course, he got really rich off. It's like Berry Gordy created Motown. He created Motown for himself and for, his family, and they've been eating off of it for many, many years. But guess what? He created it, and Michael Jackson came along and see what he did for his family and so forth. And it was a lot greater than Berry Gordy. So people don't remember Berry Gordy as much as they're going to always remember Michael Jackson. But as a mentor and as a creator, you have to be okay with that. You have to be confident and comfortable knowing that, you know what? Maybe this is going to be a bigger platform for others. And I'm talking about, man, I have former interns now, man, who are working at TMZ. They're producers in LA, they're at E Entertainment. And I got one who's a producer at CNN living in New York City. And hey, it's like, man, they're doing better than what I was than I was when I was out there doing my thing in those parts. But you just get to the point where you're comfortable and you know that you are a part of that, and you gave them their very first opportunity. And I can live with that.
And that knowing is, that they, mm-hmm. I think that also, beyond even being comfortable with that, I think when you take that mentality intentionally and you say, I'm going to create this door, because that's mm-hmm. essentially what you do when you create a new business. You're not opening a door. You are creating mm-hmm. a door that didn't exist before. And then you're saying, I'm going to create this door so I can help other people go through it to the other side. And mm-hmm. when you do that with the intent of how can I help as many people as possible, that saying, and we may have spoken about this before, but it's pretty common. What's the quickest way for you to become a billionaire? You help 1 billion people, charge them $1. It's not about let me figure out how to make money. It's how many people can I help? And if I'm solving $100 problem for you for $5, you're getting way more value out of that than I am. But I'm getting mm-hmm. some value for having helped you out. So the more that you focus on how can I help as many people as I can get where they want to go, the more success you're going to have, because people are not drawn to that person who says, I want to get rich, I want to make money. They're drawn to the person who says, I'm going to create this platform and I want you to take advantage of it. People want to be around that guy. They want to be around you. They want to figure out what it is that drives you, but they also, there's a selfish piece of it. And again, I don't use that word selfish as negative. When you see somebody who's saying, I am creating this for you, come take a piece of it, people are going to say, oh yeah, I'll take a piece of that. And it's going to draw mm-hmm. more and more people to you and breed more success for you because you're breeding success for others. That's just mm-hmm. the spirit of giving that should be in every, I'll say Christian, but then also every entrepreneur. If you go into this world and you look at it and say, how can I take as much of it as I can? you know, some people are going to be successful doing that. And I doubt very many people with our background and with our skin color are going to be successful doing that. But some people in this world can go out and just say, I'm going to take as much as I can and take advantage of the system, and I'm going to get all I want. Yep. You are privileged. You can do that. But in our world, no. It's like the way that you become successful as a Black business owner, as a Black entrepreneur, there's one route to that. You look around you and see, what can I do to help as many people as I possibly can? Doesn't matter what their color is, but what can I do to be of service to people and to help them get where they want to go? And success comes and it finds you. So with that, talking about helping other people find success, what advice would you have or would you give to somebody today who wants to break into the fashion industry or into the event planning industry?
Well, it's simple. I have a apparel clothing line called IME Clothing, and the motto of IME is one word, and it's very simple, and it's the same advice I give everybody, and that is do. D-O period. Do. Don't talk about it. Don't finna. Don't be a finna person. Do it. So if you want to, people come to me all the time. I want to be a fashion designer. Okay, design. Oh, I want to be a singer. How can I be a singer? Sing. I want to be an event coordinator, event planner. Plan an event. You know, I want to be a model. Go model. There's opportunities sitting right there in your face. You want to be a model? Come to the model call September 24th in Plano. You know, it's simple. And if you get selected, voila, you're a model. Even if you don't get selected, guess what? You modeled at least for that moment. And you tried. Now you are modeling. And things can happen from there if you just try and you just do. D-O period. That's what I tell them. It's that simple. Do it.
Nothing better than that. That right to the point. Absolutely. Man, I can't even follow that one up with another question. You don't get any more simple than that. That's kind of where I came with this too, with this podcast and with everything in my career. It's you just, I want to do this. Okay, let me go create the store. Let me go make it happen. Yeah. And you know what, Jared? And it's like, you know, with you and I both as men and with families and all like that, and something very empowering about that. Knowing that we are both resourceful men, we are driven men, and knowing that, like, our kids will never have to want for anything. Because if we can afford it, we'll buy it. But even if we can't afford it, or if it's not out there for them to have, we'll make it. We'll create it. You see what I'm saying? And that's the empowering thing about it. And our kids can see that and they'll know it. If my daughter, your daughter, or they want to do something and say it's not there in Nebraska, guess what? Gerald's going to make it happen. My daughter wants something and it's not there. I don't care if I have to be a ballerina coach and I create a little ballerina company or something. I don't know, but because that's what she wants. And hey, you don't got to worry. Daddy'll create it. You'll make it happen.
If I don't like what's going on or something that's not going to be beneficial, not just to you, but to everybody, we can make it happen no matter what.
And you're teaching them at the same time
that we're instilling them.
That exact same thing. When you grow up, if you don't like this job, okay, go make your own. It's that same mentality. You're right. So closing this thing out, man, because dude, you have dropped too much knowledge today, and there's no such thing as too much. You just, man, I'm sitting over here smiling the whole time. Like, how did I grow up with a dude like this, man? It's incredible. The last thing I want to get to though is your contact information, because you talked a few minutes ago about how many of your proteges are now out there in the world and building and growing. And so I know that there is an element of this that is tied into your fashion agency or your modeling agency. There's also an element of this of helping young people get those opportunities and breaks to get in and intern and apprentice and learn and things like that, as well as just wanting to get connections with being a part of your your fashion weeks, whether it's as sponsors or anything like that. So what are the best ways that people can find you and connect with you? What's that contact information?
Well, the best way is always going to be through our website, email addresses. We have you go to our website, plainofashionweek.com. If you go to Little Rock Fashion Week, littlerockfashionweek.com. We got the Baton Rouge fashionweek.com. And then also with my modeling agency, Oneofakind Talent Inc, INC.com. And we have literally all the information right there as far as where you can email us, talk to me or what have you. It all comes either it's going to be passed over to me. It's always going to come back and lead to me because I'm the person in charge anyway. So just to make it simple versus giving out, all these email addresses and all like that. That's where you can always find me.
Okay. Any key spots where you post things on social media? Any social media accounts where people can find more about Little Rock Fashion Week? Toss those out there. Okay.
Yeah. We're on Instagram, Little Rock Fashion Week, LRFW. We get Baton Rouge Fashion Week is on there as well too. BR Fashion Week. We're on Twitter as well too. LR Fashion Week, BRFW, BR Fashion Week. Plano. We just launched Plano Fashion Week. It's Plano Fashion Week, which is Instagram. You can find us there. Instagram, Facebook pages. If you Google any one of them, trust me, you're going to find everything. We big on social media, Twitter, Polyvore, Tumblr. That was like a key when I started this because hey, I didn't have thousands of dollars to advertise, and a lot of the magazine companies and the media company, they just wanted my money. Oh, this guy coming from New York or coming from the East Coast, coming down here, worked in LA. Oh, he has all the money. How can we get it? And so I had to find other ways. And at the time, this was like 2009, so Twitter was just kind of really popping off. MySpace was still there, but it was, on decline anyway. It had just already been sold. And so that's what I had to do. That was the first goal, is to have a presence on social media. And things have changed now because it's a little bit more challenging now. But back then, a lot of businesses was not using social media for their businesses. And I like to believe that I was kind of like a innovator when it comes to utilizing social media for Fashion Week, because a lot of other companies and even events were not utilizing Facebook and social media the same way that I was doing.
Okay. Good deal. So I'm going to close it out today with my one question. I always ask the same question at the end of an interview, and I love the answers that I get. So what is your number one piece of advice for the Buy Black community? And you can point that advice towards us as consumers or as entrepreneurs, as Black entrepreneurs, or you can hit both of them. But just your number one piece of advice for the community as a whole.
Well, I would just say I'm probably as consumers. My first thing is as consumers. It's the same thing I tell people who want to do certain things, and that is to do DO period. And that is to do it. It's not enough to talk about supporting Black businesses and supporting our own. It's about doing it. We get, with so many of us, and everybody's woke. Everybody's woke. Everybody's conscientious. And we want to uplift our communities, right? And uplift each other. But we're not supporting each other. And I'm not talking about just supporting my business. Let's support other people's business, because you'll be surprised. I see people, they are like, and it's like this sense of entitlement. And that's the thing, is a sense of entitlement when it comes to businesses or projects or my personal project. This is generally speaking, when people don't come to say that they throw an event, and if Gerald's not at the event. Gerald, people are like, how come you didn't come? You need to come on out to the events. You didn't come to the event. You didn't support. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And then Gerald can take a step back and be like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You didn't come to my event.
Right.
You didn't come to support my event. I had a little newspaper. I had a radio. You didn't even listen to it. You see what I'm saying? But it's like everybody is one-sided. Not everybody, but so many people are one-sided, so they don't put their money where their mouth is. You want to be about black this and black that, but you're not trying to put your money into black businesses. You're trying to just take from black businesses. And I know businesses out there who gear toward other black businesses to be like, I'm benefiting other black businesses, but they're not even sowing seeds into those black businesses that they claim to be benefiting or giving benefits to. And so that's my thing. And I think that's what consumers need to be concerned about. But then also on the other end, though, as well, too, is that we need to get back to just, and this is just an overall thing about business and about just people. We need to start respecting all of us. Need to start respecting all of us, because customer service is very important. You have a black-owned business, you need to treat your customers with the same respect. And it's not just with us, but I know some white companies and businesses and governmental offices or governmental organizations or what have you. They don't appreciate us, or they don't respect us, and our dollar is the same dollar that everybody else is going to be giving you.
True.
So when I'm in the line, don't look past me because, I'm a black person, or you let somebody else break, or you don't give me the same type of customer service as somebody else. When at the end of the day, we both about to give you green, or we about to use our card and about to give you the same money.
Right.
So we all need to treat everybody equal, and especially when it comes to business, treat everybody fair. Like we talked about earlier, get yourself out the way. It ain't about you. If you have a chicken joint, I'm coming for the chicken, and the chicken is good. But if the chicken is good, but goodness gracious, I got to deal with this nasty attitude with the person that I got to get the chicken from. Goodness, I have to start cooking my own chicken. I want to support your chicken, support you in your business, but goodness gracious. It's like, it shouldn't be that hard. And so we all, and this is from the consumers, it's cyclical. So the consumers need to start respecting black businesses, but black businesses need to start respecting the consumers as well, too. I'm not even going to tell you just the horror stories, and just even the way that things are just done in certain sectors of businesses that I feel like that's not fair to the consumer, but it's also sometimes it's not fair to the business owner, the person giving the service.
I'd agree with you 100% on that. 100% on that. I think there is a big market out there, and I've considered this as well. As my show grows and as I have more of an opportunity to use my skill set. I'm a performance consultant, and so that's basically what I do every day is go into not businesses. I still work on the government side, but go into government organizations and military units and help them basically run their processes more efficiently and get more of their mission done. And I see that market there, that market growing of, how do you help a black-owned business to grow that professionalism and be able to provide that type of service that is going to put it on par with the other businesses in the community in the eyes of both our consumers and other consumers. Because that is the biggest complaint. What you just said is black-owned businesses are obviously black-owned businesses when it comes to fitting what people see as stereotypes, negative stereotypes of black community. A lot of our businesses show those stereotypes, and it drives away
Yeah,
our
the same
consumers
thing.
and their consumers. And we have got to educate and teach and grow our entrepreneurs and our business owners to be able to deliver that high level of quality and customer service consistently, so that that factor is gone. I'm right there with you. Absolutely. Well, man.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for blessing us with this information today, man. I knew it was going to be magical when I connected with you a few weeks ago, but dude, you dropped some bombs today. It was incredible, and I really appreciate you coming and just sharing this time with me and with our community. So,
Okay.
let me know as we go forward, as we get closer to the Plano launch and then the Baton Rouge launch. Just reach out to me if you want me to put any plugs into the show and in future shows that I have coming out, just to remind people. I'd be absolutely happy to do that. And anything else, just let me know what I can do to help support you as you continue to grow on this mission.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And likewise with you as well, too. I most definitely want to do that as well, too.
Thank you for being part of the Buy Black podcast community. If you've enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Join us next time for another empowering episode.